Konnichiwa, and welcome to the Samurai Way, the podcast where we dive into the wisdom of the samurai, the art of Japanese living, and the philosophies that help us live with purpose and perseverance. I'm Lori Sagawa, and whether you're here to explore Bushido, the samurai, uncover the meaning of Ikigai, or just looking for a little extra gambaru, never give up spirit in your daily life, you're in the right place. So grab a cup of tea, get comfortable, and let's walk this path together. Are you ready? Let's begin. Well, welcome to the Samurai Way podcast. I'm Lori Sagawa, and I'm so glad to introduce you to a new friend of mine, and you will enjoy her. She has so much to offer. Our guest today is Sanae Ishida, who lives in the beautiful Seattle, Washington, and writes, draws, sews, and takes photos almost every day. She's an author, illustrator, designer, and maker of many things. Find out more of her work at sanaeishida.com. SANAEISHIDA.com. You'll see that in the comments. So I want you to welcome Sanae, and please share about yourself, Sanae.
Hi, Lori. Thanks so much for having me. As Lori mentioned, I am a maker of many things, basically. I'm originally from Los Angeles, California, but both my parents are from Japan. My mom's from Tokyo, my dad's from Hyogo, and I now have been in Seattle for 20 plus years. And it's funny because my background is much more corporate, but I just decided to make a shift, and it's been amazing to be able to work on books, and I teach classes, and my teaching sort of hails back to my JET program days when I was teaching English in Japan in Matsusaka, where I just found out Lori's family is from, so small world. And yeah, so there's some teaching going on. There's a lot of bookmaking. There's a lot of illustrations and painting, and obviously sewing. I make all of my clothes, and it's one of my favorite things to do.
Well, great. We have Sanae is an author of many wonderful books. You'll have to check them out. But one thing she wants to talk about is shugyo. So could you explain that to the audience?
Sure. Kunoichi, the Ninja Girl, was my very first book baby. And little Kunoichi, or the word Kunoichi, means female ninja in Japanese. And I love this idea of shugyo, which means to really train very intensely and intentionally in an effort to gain mastery. But I worded it, since it was a kid's book, as, train like crazy. And so the whole story is based on that idea of practicing and practicing and practicing, and also developing teamwork. And I do want to make sure, as I was writing the book, I was thinking, I love this idea of trying to gain mastery in something without clinging to the results of trying to make it into something, amazing and extraordinary, but just practicing and showing up every day. And I believe it's really important to differentiate that from this pervasive hustle culture that we're seeing, especially here in the West, of, work, 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 work. And it's not so much about intentionality or developing skills so much as kind of reaching these very big end goals. And yeah, so that's my take on shugyo. And I try to abide by that in my own way of doing things.
Well, I encourage you to check out her books. Our grandchildren all grew up on Little Kunoichi. They loved it.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, it's a series. So there's Little Kunoichi the Ninja Girl was the very first one. And then her samurai best friend is featured in the second book. He gets a little jealous and wants a pet. So he goes in search for one. And then the third one is based on my mom, who I believe is a true ninja grandma. So it's called Basen, the Ninja Grandma. And then I've done a bunch of little sumo baby books. And this year marks the 10-year anniversary of Little Kunoichi, the Ninja Girl. So we are publishing kind of a companion baby book, and it's called Goodnight Ninjas. It's coming out in August. We're actually about to start the whole pre-order marketing, you know, exciting hoopla type stuff. But yeah, so I thought it was so wonderful to be able to tie that in this little baby book with my first baby book. Or book baby, I should say. Yeah.
Another thing you wanted the audience to know is about the importance of letting go of results. Would you like to
Right.
expound on that?
Sure. I mean, I think I touched on that, this idea of when you are engaged in an activity or working towards some sort of aim or goal, I think it's easy to get caught up in, wanting to see the actual results. And and there's nothing wrong with that, I would say, but I have found in my own personal experience that I start to get really disappointed and I'm really kind of like only thinking about the results, like, oh, am I hitting, whether it's a financial goal or maybe with books, it's like, am I you know getting another book deal, or I don't know, just different things, when you get so um laser focused on that, it really does detract from the enjoyment of, I know how cliche it is, like, it's the process, not the results, but I think it's been interesting that with every project I've worked on, the ones where I genuinely enjoyed the process were the ones who also tended to be the ones that succeeded,
Mm.
where I wasn't focused on making sure. But the ones where I thought, okay, this one needs to do well, I think I I just didn't really have as much fun. And I think about this one time where I decided to make jeans for myself. This is a little different from books. And I decided I'm going to take my time. There's no rush. The only person who cares about these jeans is me. So I really took my time and loved it. I mean, I made lots of mistakes, but I learned a ton, and the jeans came out great. I really wore them all the time. And then my daughter saw them and said, "I want jeans." So then when I started making jeans for her, I kept thinking, "Oh, it has to be perfect. It has to fit her just right. She has to love it." And I was so focused on what she would think, how she would feel. It just became very stressful, the whole process of making the jeans. And I think that translates across any kind of activity I engage in,
Mhm.
when I'm just thinking, okay, let's just go with this and enjoy it. Then I don't know, it just makes everything better for me. So letting go of the
Letting
results.
go. That's so important, because when you hold on too tight to anything, it's kind of like you squeeze the life out of it.
Yeah, you're crushing it. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
And not in a good way.
No, no. And also, you wanted to bring out the paying attention to body intuition. I'm sorry. Pay attention to body
Oh,
intuition.
um, I wonder what I want to say about that. I mean, it's something that I I think it's really been a guiding factor for me. I'm a big journal keeper. I journal every single day, and I have for now 30 plus years.
Wow.
And yeah, I feel like it's the one thing I've really done consistently in my life. And what I learned about the journaling process is basically, I mean, I love that um, I allow myself to just not worry. It's similar to letting go of the results. I don't worry about whether it's grammatically correct or, like, truly no one is going to see this. In fact, I don't even keep my journals anymore. I used to keep them and I lugged around boxes and boxes of my journals with me for decades. And then now when I finish one, I just recycle it. But it's really about just letting my thoughts out, putting it out on paper, but also I'm connecting with my intuition, because there's this thing that happens. I have, I guess it's kind of a process, but as I'm writing, I notice like a shift. It's almost like an out of body experience where I'm no longer really here. It's hard to describe. It sounds kind of weird, but I'm tuning in,
Hmm.
and I don't even know what I'm writing really sometimes. And but I can almost hear exact words, but it's more sensations. And I feel like those have been, I mean, the reason why I've been able to create so many different books, they've all been through this kind of journaling, like these ideas just kind of bubble up in a sensory kind of way. And yeah, so I think I have found that when I don't listen to what my body is telling me, things just tend to go wrong. My health declines. I don't know, just things start to go awry in general. So I really, really trust this deep sense of intuition that I've really practiced learning to listen to.
Oh, that's beautiful. This is a Samurai Way podcast, and one reason I wanted to interview you is because of your books, and just
Hmm.
wondered what got you started in writing about ninja, samurai, and that topic.
I mean, I grew up in Los Angeles, but my parents are both from Japan, as I said. So my first language was Japanese, actually, and I grew up reading a lot of comic books, Japanese manga, and I really absorbed all the Japanese culture, but also other cultures through comic books. A lot of mangas actually features um, just global cultural stories and folk tales and all these different things. But ninjas and samurais definitely are the most prominent themes, I feel like, in Japanese manga and comic books and all that. Um, and so I think that's always been in just brewing in the background or within me. And I had a very serendipitous way of getting my very first book deal. And I was approached, and the editor asked me if I had any ideas. And I was like, well, I have lots of ideas. I've always wanted to write and illustrate books. Um, and then one day I was walking down the street trying to think of something, and I passed this little coffee shop that's no longer there, pretty near my neighborhood. And the coffee shop was called Tiny Ninja. And I thought,
Oh,
huh, Tiny Ninja, a little ninja girl. Wait a second. And that was kind of how it started. And then once I got the story of the ninja girl going, then of course she had to have a whole cast of characters and friends, and she needed to have a samurai friend who would be her best friend. And yeah, so that's kind of the origin story of Little Kunoichi.
that's interesting.
Yes.
And how, like when you were doing this, I'd like to ask you a few questions when you were starting to write. How was your relationship with your daughter brought into this?
Um, well, she's my inspiration for the character. So my daughter's name starts with a K, so I love the tie-in with Kunoichi and my daughter's name. Um, and there is also another element to why I wanted this particular book to be about practicing, because I think she must have been in the second grade, maybe, no, younger than that, kindergarten, probably kindergarten. And there was a school trip where we went to a little ice skating rink. And my daughter, I think it might have been her second time or something. So she, went on the ice and then immediately froze. She didn't know what to do. And then she clutched to the side and she kept falling, but she kept getting up. And then she kept falling and got up. The samurai, what is it, fall 7 times and get up eight? And I thought of that, and I thought, and I was so inspired by how she just kept trying and kept practicing. And I thought about how I'd read her, hundreds of books. And I felt like at the time, it's different now. I feel like there's a lot more books about kind of um, maybe character building or whatever, but there weren't very many books that I saw about an Asian female character and also like working hard. Again, not in a hustle way, but just practicing and trying to really deliberately develop a skill. And so that all converged together, and that's how that's how I wrote the book.
Hmm, that's interesting. Um, is there anything else that you would like to share with the audience about what you do and the inspiration for it, and just any words of wisdom?
Oh gosh, I don't feel like I'm equipped to give out any wisdom. Although I think it's um, maybe funny is not the right word, but one of the books, I have two books coming out this year. So one is the ninja bedtime book called Goodnight Ninjas coming out in August. And the other one is called Shibui, and that's coming out in, I believe, November. We don't have a specific, like, definitive date yet, but it's actually about the finding beauty in the process of aging.
Uh-huh.
So, kind of like looking, seeking wisdom in the aging process. But I think everything that I do has an element of my Japanese culture, obviously, and it's such a big part of who I am. I think it's such a unique and beautiful
Uh-huh.
culture. But I am also American, Japanese American, so I love kind of being able to bring forth both perspectives in
Uh-huh.
what I create, and yeah, so and I love trying different things. So books are my first and main love for sure. But I do love to teach. I do lots of different crafts, not just sewing, but I knit. I also make toys. I've done all sorts of different things. And yeah, but the through line is this Japanese American perspective, I would say.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Did you have a lot of creativity in your background, like say maybe generations?
Yeah, for sure.
ago?
My mom is an artist.
Oh, she is
So,
okay.
yeah. And I always joke that, instead of having conversations, we just painted. I've painted and drawn since I was a baby, really, as soon as I could hold a pencil, I was drawing. And so I have two brothers. They're both also very artistic and creative. And so my mom is definitely one of my heroes and models. She can create anything. She's also an amazing cook. Like I feel like she's one of those people who, you know, give her a bunch of things and she'll just make something beautiful. And so having grown up with that definitely had an impact. But I think I also, in a weird way, rebelled against it for a really long time. I thought, oh, I'm going to be a businesswoman. I'm going to be corporate. And so I tried all this, I guess the thing that society expects you to do, go to the good school, get the good job, blah, 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 blah. And I did all that. But I kept, no matter what kind of job I had, somehow I would end up designing something or making something creative or like hand or like people would ask me to make illustrations or posters or something random like that. And so finally I just thought, maybe I should just pursue this instead of fighting it so much. And when my daughter was born, I suddenly had this huge hankering to make her teeny tiny dresses. So we I started sewing just nonstop, really, from that point on.
Huh.
Yep.
Something innate in you, and that's what I found out too, because when I went to Miyama, they were
Mm-hmm.
planting rice, and it just brought back so many memories. I'm a farmer's daughter, and
Mm.
we used to plant strawberries, and it was always about, well, that
Oh,
planting season is over,
yeah.
but just the whole process, and I just didn't like it. I didn't like being a farmer's daughter, and I didn't like the
Yeah.
farm. I didn't like getting dirty, but
Mm-hmm.
it's part of me. I mean, you can't. you can't deny it. Just like my mother was an amazing cook, and I love to cook, and
Yeah.
she was adventurous, and I got the travel bug when I was about in high school. I went to Hawaii, and
Yeah.
ever since then, I've wanted to travel anytime I can.
Yeah. Yeah, I love traveling too. I've
Hmm.
done quite a lot of traveling myself. Um, yeah, I do. I agree. I think it's inseparable how we grow up,
Hmm.
what our family roots are, that just really informs and shows up, I think, in unexpected ways.
Hmm.
And yeah.
Just like my Japanese background, it was kind of a part of me that I didn't really visit that often because it was painful, being
Mm,
growing up as a baby boomer in
yeah,
post-war America, post
yeah.
World War II, and it was not a good time to be Japanese. And so I just did not want to go there. But once the accident happened in '05 and '07, I really delved into my background and found out
Mm,
it's beautiful,
yeah.
Kodo Ikigai, Gambaru,
Yes.
Kintsugi, all of these Japanese principles they're a part of me and I can't deny it.
Yeah. 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 I feel the same way. I mean, I'm definitely more Americanized probably than
Mhm.
um I, I've actually translated a bunch of Japanese craft books, but I can only translate from Japanese to English because the strength is in English in terms of writing. But if I tried to translate from English to Japanese, I would definitely struggle more.
Mm.
But I think it's interesting that I understand the nuances of, the Japanese terminologies and the phrasings and things like that. But yeah, that's when given to me like that. But then trying to put that back into Japanese is where I think more of my Americanness comes out, and I'm like, I struggle a little bit more. So I
Mm.
don't know. That's been something I've been thinking about, and how, yeah, I'm not truly one way or the other. When I was teaching with the DEP program, I remember feeling so American in Japan, But when I'm here, obviously people identify me more as Japanese. So,
Mm.
but yeah.
Well, it's been so interesting talking to you. And also, what I love to ask my guests is, everybody has a dream, everybody has a big dream. And do you have any big dreams that you would like to accomplish while you're here on Earth? If you'd like to share that.
Oh, I mean, I feel like I'm doing it right now.
Oh,
I feel
mhm.
like I've been so lucky. I think one of the things, so when I didn't mention this, but I have an autoimmune condition, and it was part of the reason why I shifted from corporate work to this. And I had done that questioning, that deep soul searching, if you will, of like, why am I here? What is the point of my existence? And I allowed myself to think, if I truly didn't care what anyone thought, what would I want to do? Because I was doing what I was supposed to do, what I should do,
Mm.
right? With the corporate work and all those things. And I knew that, and I had been keeping that journal practice for, years and years and years. But I never told people, that I love to write. And, um, and so at that time, I told myself, what I really want to do is to write. I want to illustrate books, children's and um, adults. And I just wanted to make things. That was my conclusion
Mhm.
after this, like, lots of reflections. And it's what I'm doing right now. And I think also um, I wanted to want my life. Like, I feel like we are somehow conditioned to think there's something better out there all the time. Like, if we do this, if we do X, and then it'll be Y and Z. Like, we'll get happiness, or we'll get whatever, all these things.
Mhm.
And I wanted to just truly want my life and
Mhm.
not want anyone else's. And so I think I'm I mean, not 100%, mind you, but I feel like I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. I'm like 95% there.
Well, that's beautiful. We both have that Japanese connection in different ways. I can remember my grandmother being my only contact of Japanese person.
Mm,
And but yet I was only 6 when she passed away, but it was quite profound. I mean, I wanted to be with her all the time and I
mm,
begged my parents. I said, please let me go there. And so I would stay overnight with her sometimes. And
oh,
I was the only one in my family that wanted to do that. So they would trek me into Portland and let me stay there for a day or two. And I loved it.
oh, that's wonderful.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think I appreciate Japanese culture more and more. And like I told you, I'll be going next month, and I was there last year. And every time I'm there, I'm like, oh, what an amazing place. But there's always light and shadow, right? Both in every culture. So
Hmm.
yeah, but it's I feel I feel happy to be Japanese American and to be
I,
able to create work that shares
mhm.
that aspect of myself. Yep.
That's beautiful. That's how I feel. I'm so happy that I am who I am.
Yep.
And because I wanted to be somebody else, somebody with blonde hair and blue eyes, but
Oh
that's
yeah.
not you too.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's universal for I don't know. I shouldn't I shouldn't assume, but I feel like, as a little Asian girl, all I wanted was to look like Barbie. and
Hmm.
and back then, it's so different now. Back then, like magazines and TV and movies, like you really didn't see anyone who looked like us as
No,
much. And now I feel like it's definitely shifted.
it's shifting. Yes.
Yeah.
Because over half the world is Asian.
I
And
know.
no, people don't realize that. And India has the largest population of Asian people. And then next
Yeah.
is China. So over
China.
half the world is Asian, and people don't realize that. They say, oh, no.
Yeah.
I go, well, just count China and India
Yeah.
alone, and you have
Oh,
billions of people.
for
And the other
sure.
thing is that some people say, oh, well, people like in the Middle East, they don't think they're Asian. I go, well, if you're not Asian, what are you? you know,
Right,
Middle East,
right.
they are Asian. Some people
Yep,
in those countries are Asian.
yep,
So we have a lot to be proud of, and so
yes,
thankful that I am who I am. And I love the food in Japan. I love the people, and I just love going
yeah.
there and being able to speak more intelligently, and
Mm.
even starting to make people laugh when I talk in Japanese. That's fun.
It's so funny. I found out that when I was teaching English in Japan, that none of my students would actually try to speak English if they knew I spoke Japanese. So I had to pretend I couldn't understand any Japanese for and that but that was like I learned that with one class. So for the other classes, I pretended, and let me tell you, I heard some stuff. I heard some stuff.
They probably didn't understand that you understood, right?
They didn't. They gasped when I spoke Japanese at the end of the year speech. They're like, "Oh no!" So it's funny.
Well, Sanae, it's been so wonderful to speak with you and meet you. And I love
Same.
introducing the audience to a different perspective. And probably a lot of people don't know that you can actually start educating your children with her wonderful books. And you'll learn more about her in the information below. So I would just like to thank you so much, Sanae, for being our guest. And it's been wonderful. The time's just gone by. And thank you again. Do
Take care.
itashimashite.
Arigatou gozaimasu.
So, and that's a wrap for today's episode, The Samurai Way. I hope you found a little inspiration, a new perspective, or just something to reflect upon as you go about your day. Now remember, the samurai spirit isn't just about history. It's about how you show up, face challenges, and live with purpose. Whether it's Ikigai guiding your path or a little extra Gambaru pushing you forward, keep walking strong. So if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, share, or leave a review. It really helps. And if you've got thoughts, questions, or just want to connect, just contact me. So until next time, stay focused, stay determined, and keep living with purpose. Mata ne.